All right, let's talk about silver, but we're not talking about jewelry or old coins here. We're diving into a really fascinating and, frankly, kind of volatile scenario that's building up in the global markets. One where this single commodity could, believe it or not, be at the very center of some huge financial instability. So, that brings us to the big question, right? Could this shiny metal that you see everywhere, could it actually set off a major banking crisis? I know, it sounds a little dramatic, but the financial gears turning behind the scenes? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack here. Okay, so to really get the risk here, you've got to understand what silver is in today's world. And let me tell you, it is so much more than just a pretty metal or something to store value. It is an absolute industrial workhorse. I mean, silver has become completely essential. We're seeing record high demand, and it's all being fueled by the biggest tech of our time. We're talking about those massive AI data centers, solar panels everywhere, and of course, all the electronics packed inside every single electric vehicle.
And all that demand, well, it's leading us straight to the heart of the problem. You see, there's this massive, growing gap between the financial world of paper silver, the contracts, and the actual physical stuff you can hold in your hand.
So let's just quickly get on the same page about a key term here, the futures market. It's pretty simple, actually. Imagine you're an EV company. You know you're going to need a ton of silver in 6 months, so you buy a contract today to lock in a price. It's basically a promise for future delivery, and it helps you avoid any crazy price jumps. It's a totally standard, super important part of how the global economy works.
Okay, and this is the whole shebang, the core problem. There are way more paper promises to deliver silver than there is actual physical silver sitting in warehouses. It's a huge, enormous imbalance, a ton of IOUs with not enough cash in the drawer, so to speak. And that imbalance, well, it sets the stage perfectly for something called a squeeze. Think of it as the ultimate moment of truth. It's when everybody holding one of those paper promises shows up at the same time and says, okay, I'd like my physical silver now, please. And just look at the scale of this problem. On one side, you've got this absolute mountain of paper contracts. We're talking billions of ounces of promised silver. And on the other side, the physical reality. A much smaller pile of the actual metal that's ready for delivery. The gap between these two is just immense. And look, this isn't some far-off, maybe-it'll-happen threat. There's a ticking clock here. The pressure is building right now. You have banks upping their bets against silver. You've got the big exchanges making it more expensive to even trade it. And then, and this is a big one, China, a huge supplier, is about to ban silver exports in early 2026. That's going to squeeze the global supply like you wouldn't believe.
So you've got this physical supply problem, right? But that's not all. There's a whole other layer of risk running right alongside it, a financial one. We're talking about some of the biggest players who aren't just handling trades, they are actively and heavily betting that the price of silver is going to go down. They do this using something called a short position. All that means is it's a bet that an asset's price will fall. But here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. The risk is insane. If you're wrong, if that price goes up instead of down, your losses can be, and I mean this literally, infinite. There's no ceiling.
And again, this isn't just theory. This risk is growing. We've seen big players increase these super risky short positions by around 10% just in the last few months. They are basically doubling down, betting big that they can keep the price of silver under control. And this really gets to the heart of the danger. The higher the price of silver goes, the more these banks get squeezed. They could get hit with what are called margin calls, which basically means they have to cough up massive amounts of cash right away to cover their bad bets. We're talking about losses that could be just astronomical. Okay, so with all this pressure building up, you gotta wonder, right? What are the people in charge? The regulators, the exchanges, what are they doing about it? Is there anything in place to stop this whole thing from melting down? Well, the main defense we're seeing is from the CME Group, which is the big futures exchange. What they're doing is hiking up the margin requirement. Think of it as the cover charge to get into the club, or the down payment you need just to trade a silver contract. They're jacking it up to $25,000. And the logic is pretty straightforward. Make it more expensive to play, and maybe you'll scare off some of the buyers and cool the whole market down. So you take all of this, the real-world demand, the mountain of paper promises, the giant financial bets, and you're putting them all on a collision course. It's like a pressure cooker, and it looks like it could blow in one of two very different directions. This is really the fork in the road.
On one path, let's call it outcome A, you have the big industrial users, the EV makers, the solar companies. They all demand the actual physical silver they were promised. With supplies so ridiculously tight, this could ignite a price supernova, shooting the price of silver way into the triple digits. But then there's outcome B, the complete opposite. The price gets too high, it's too hard to get, and those same manufacturers just give up. They find an alternative. And if that happens, demand just vanishes, and the silver price totally craters. Two polar opposite, and you have to admit, equally dramatic outcomes. And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. But what this whole situation really shines a light on is a potential risk baked into the entire system. In a financial world that's built on these incredibly complex paper instruments, is this disconnect from real, physical things, is that the hidden vulnerability we're not paying enough attention to?